Hello everybody, my name is Angel Chen. My co-author Cindy Bear and I are very honored to present at the ICTEL conference. Our topic is about student learning at the age of COVID-19 pandemics. So first we'll talk about what inspired us to study this topic. So as we know, COVID-19 has become a global pandemic, and as November, it's affecting 191 countries worldwide, and we might have more countries affected. And as of November 30th, there are so many cases globally, and just within less than 2 months, these cases are double compared to October 10, 2020. So this COVID-19 has really changed how universities operate. We cannot have the traditional university classroom anymore, or the university operating online for most countries. And also how teachers teach. We cannot teach in the traditional classroom settings, we have to teach online, and how students learn as well. So with all this background, we are take a look at the theoretical background of these studies. So this is how we assume students learning. And with the COVID impacted, with all the different layers of the things happening in the world, we assume all these factors are going to affect students, how students learn, compared to pre-COVID time. So let's take a look on what's the program we are going to study for this study. So this is a talk about the writing programs here, and this writing program is based on a year-long writing class. They are taught by the same instructors, and these instructors they share equity pedagogy, and the whole curriculum is built on the shared curriculum. So in other words, all these instructors they are teaching on the same curriculum content, compared to some other writing class maybe have some similar learning objective, but all the class are structured differently. This is pretty much a similar one. So with that controls, we can control this whole student cohorts are learning the similar content in the different classes. So the research question of the studies are, we have 3 research questions we would like to seek to answer. First one, to what extent does COVID-19 impact students' learning compared to the pre-pandemic era? Second, which groups of students have been affected most during the COVID-19 pandemic? And third one, what are the recommending implications for teaching virtually in post-COVID-19 era? So this study, we have 2 data sets. Tableau is used to analyze the data. So the first data set is from the school official database. We have 2 data sets from fall 2019 and spring 2020 data, including students' final grades and also demographics. And second one is a language background survey. This survey is adapting from the Dana Ferris language background survey. And students' participation for this survey is voluntary. So if a student are opt out, they would prefer not to answer this survey, they could do that. So the data points of these studies are including these following data points. First one is students' final grades. And due to final COVID-19, the credit and non-credit grades have been adding to students' grade policy, in addition to traditional A to F grades in spring 2020. Second one is genders. We want to see if there is any difference in gender during this COVID semester. And second one is ethnicity. By ethnicity, we primarily use 2 different groups. One is how San Jose State defined by underrepresented minority students. Those groups including African American students, Native American students, and Latinx students, Latino, Latina. And the other non-URN are including, for example, Caucasian, Asian students, and Pacific Islanders. And the next one is financial status. We base on if students are eligible in receiving Pell Grant. And the final one is a parents' level education. Is students are the first one to attend college among family. And for the language background, we study, for example, students of first language, are they English or not? And second one is they are monolingual or multilingual. Multilingual means at home they probably speak more than one language, and the monolingual means just one. So let's take a look at the results. From fall 2019 to spring 2020, we can see there is a 7% decrease in the pass rate. Again, and now we can see the withdrawal rate increased from 0% to 3%. And also the fail rate also doubled from 4% to 8%. And among how many students, usually we will see 2% of a decrease from fall to spring. So the 7% decrease is quite unusual here. And for the COVID-19 grading policies, how many students change from credit to non-credit? We find only 6% of the students, they change to credit, non-credit. Among the students who pass the class, 4% of them change to credit, non-credit. And for students who fail the class, 35% of the students who change to credit, non-credit. The second one, we take a look at genders. Now we can see for the fall 2019, there is no gender difference here. And for the spring 2020, we can see there is a 3% difference here. And among this data set, we have one student who didn't identify a gender, so this student was excluded here. So normally for the spring data, we don't see such a difference between genders. And second one, we see the ethnicity, if there is any difference here. Now we see for 2019, we see a 2% of difference. And for spring 2020, we see a 9% difference here. Now normally we see a 2% difference on average from spring 2015 to 2019. But what we want to say is from the last spring 2019, there is a 0% difference between URN and non-URN students. So on the this semester was 9%, so that was quite something to be cautioned. A second one, we are looking at the financial status based on the students' eligibility in receiving Pell Grant. Now from fall 2019, we see a 0% difference. From spring 2020, we see just a 1% difference, almost not very significant difference here. And for the parents' level education, we can see 0% here in fall 2019. They are both at 96%, pretty high. And for the spring 2020, we see like 6% difference. So students who are first-gen students, none of them parents go to attend college. They perform much not as good as their peers who are not first-gen. Now with all the demographic data, now we are taking a look at the language background survey data. Now first one, we are going to see students' first language. Are they English or other language? Now we see if there is any difference. Now in the beginning, we see the fall 2019, there is a 2% difference between these two groups. And for the spring 2020, we're still seeing a 2% difference here. So among this data, we have 21 students who did not complete these items. So we can say we don't really see any difference between students with English as first language and the other language as a first language. We don't see any difference data here. For the monolingual and multilingual groups, for fall 2019, we see a 0% difference here. And for spring 2020, we see a 2% difference. Monolingual is a little bit higher. And the multilingual students, they are 2% lower. And among those data, we have 17 students who did not complete these items are not including these data. So with the conclusions we have here, we see the decrease in students completing the course suggests the impact of student learning. And the following factors, really we can see a great influence on students' learning. They are first, ethnicity, the URN status, and also the parents' level of education, the first generation status, and the third one is the gender. And for the language background, we didn't see a lot of significant difference there. So based on the conclusion and results, we have the following implications. The first one, we can see the impact from how students change from in-person to virtual classes. In the middle of spring 2020, while instructors also modified their lesson into all virtual and online modality, which has a lot of impact on students' learning, because this writing program used to be student all learning in the same cohorts. So there's a lot of interactions with the instructors. And also they are mostly first-year students, so a lot of them are on campus. So the second one, the results suggest we should rethink, consider how equity pedagogy can be implemented in the virtual learning environment, especially for the URN students, first-gen students, and some female students. So this is our presentation. Thank you very much.